Hey everybody, welcome back to Welcome Grove Homestead. My voice is getting better. Obviously I'm not all the way there yet, but it's better enough to be able to talk again. So I need to fill you guys in on, we had a very terrible, horrible, awful day yesterday. And honestly, grand scheme, it could have been worse. All my kids are fine. I think that's about the big plus of the day. No, we didn't lose any goats, that's good. But it was generally a really, really bad day yesterday. And here's why. So we are having a early-ish cold snap coming through. Where, tonight is gonna be the coldest it's been since I've been here, and it's gonna drop down into the upper 20s, which is gonna be quite cold for us. The other night we got down to about 31 or something like that. And so it was cold. It was freezing. It was enough to frost. And we did unfortunately have some losses. Now, as you know, we've been trying to do a lot of juggling with time and abilities, and cold weather has been coming in really fast on us. And some of the challenges that we're facing is the fact that David's not home 24/7. So there's me and my parents, and there are some challenges where my dad has some mobility issues. My mom is mostly working in the house and helping the kids and stuff like that with school. So it's been a challenge to make some of the deadlines that we have set for ourselves when it comes to winterizing and getting ready. Now, our plan was to have our meat birds out of the brooder within a couple days after we processed our last batch, but we did run into a little snag with some timing, just because either the weather would roll in and we would get some rain, or it just basically, we weren't quite prepared when the cold snap came in. So the chicks were still in the brooder room, which we thought was going to be fine because it's pretty well protected, it's enclosed, they should be okay in there. We did end up losing some birds, unfortunately. The cold weather rolled in, the birds got cold, and they started dogpiling each other to get warm, and unfortunately we lost quite a few to crush injuries. I very much take responsibility for that. They needed to move out sooner. We just were not able to get our tractor here ready in time. And it was the very last night. I wanted to move them out that day, and just projects get in the way, and I wasn't able to quite get to that particular task that day. And it just didn't pan out. So, very steep learning curve in that when you've got cold weather rolling in and you've got birds that are in a brooder, you got to get them moved. So we did get our remaining 47 birds. So we lost 13 out of 60. We have our remaining 47 birds moved out into the tractor, moved them yesterday. And I did put a heat lamp in here. I know heat lamps are very taboo, but we have got it pretty well suspended, and if anything should happen, heaven forbid, we don't want to lose any more birds, but if it should catch on fire, basically all we would lose is the birds at this point. So, but we have, our power source is protected. It's inside the building. Here, I'll kind of show you guys where we're at here. So we did move our tractor up here. It's next to the goat barn, but it's not like right up on it. It's close to it, but not right up on it. So this building acts as a wind block to help with the wind chill. And our extension cord is run through the top. The top doesn't quite all the way cover, but it's just pretty much venting. Because the important part is that the bottom gets covered, so there's not drafts. So we've got our extension cord, and that actually plugs in inside the building so it doesn't get any weather on it, and the cord runs into the tractor where the light is kind of suspended. My ultimate plan is not to have the heat lamp on them all the time, but we just got to get them through this cold snap. Because like I said, tonight is supposed to get down into the upper 20s, and that's pretty darn cold. We do have one runt bird in there. It's the same age as everybody else, but it is probably half the size and has very few feathers on it. So it's pretty naked, but it's still kicking, so we just want to have that supplemental heat to avoid any more losses. So, I mean, it does kind of work out that I ended up getting some extra birds because we were originally planning on only 50, and then we had 60 due to just some circumstances with our homesteading group. And so now we lost 13, so we're down to 47, which is close to our original plan. So, I mean, I'm not saying woohoo, because I mean, it's still 13 birds that died, but it's also slightly relieving that we didn't start with 50 and then lose 13 after that. So, I guess take from that what you will. It's not great, but it's also not a total disaster either. So this is not necessarily a series of events, but because this was related to the birds, I'm going to go ahead and go to this part of the day, which was the deceased chickens were in just a tote awaiting their removal, and it was unfortunately where the dogs could get to it. And so the two guardian dogs went over and were investigating, and we tried to call them away and then realized that there was a battle going on where they're both freezing over it, both kind of taking possession of it. Basically, a dogfight broke out between Hercules and Bindi. So, I mean, nobody got seriously hurt. There was a tiny bit of blood that I can't even figure out who it belonged to because I can't find a wound on either of them. And there was a little bit of limping from Bindi a little bit later. But they were having a real fight, so I had to separate them, which means having to wait until a safe moment to intervene. And so it just added to the day. We currently have been keeping them separated now. Hercules has been undergoing some poultry training. Last week Hercules did kill one of our chickens. He's been doing really good though with his new training. Alright, since the wind decided to kick up outside, I'm going to do this in here in the barn. So another terrible, awful thing that happened is that we do let the dogs out of the pastures so that they can play. Hercules spent several days in the pasture that he's in now with the Nigerian does, just learning not to mess with the chickens. So he was in there for 24 hours a day for several days, and he did particularly well yesterday morning when a bunch of chickens and guineas got out of the coop. He didn't go after anybody, and so as a reward I was letting him out to play, and I knew that Bindi had been missing him, so I let her out of her pasture to come out and play with him. And they're big dogs, but they're still puppies, and they get to romping and being ridiculous. And Bindi has this habit: when she is running around being crazy, she will just crash into a person. You'll be in an open field and she is going to run into you and take your knees out, and like, she's not even specifically going for you. She's not biting at you. She's just running around romping, thinks that you should join in her fun, and she just bowls you over, which she's been doing better about generally. But yesterday she hit my mom. My mom has a bad knee from just an injury that happened a few months ago. It still has been tender, just hasn't really been able to heal very well. Well, Bindi crashed into the side of her bad knee while she was standing on it's not a big hill, it's a little hill leading up to the goat pasture, and took her down. I mean, I heard it make a popping sound. She rolled down the hill. It was awful. So she was basically taken out of commission for the day. So she spent the day on the couch with ice packs and a knee brace, and yeah, we're still waiting to find out how bad it is. She's actually making an appointment to go see a doctor today, this afternoon. So I will keep you guys updated on how her knee is doing. But basically, it's very swollen. She can barely use it. And so that definitely lended a lot of stress to the very bad day yesterday. There were other little things about the day that just are like, they're not that big of a deal, but when you're having a bad day, it just kind of adds to your bad day. Like having to return a feed because I paid for one and somebody just loaded the wrong feed on my truck, but it wasn't noticed until later after the feed store had closed because it was at the bottom of the stack of the bags. So it was just like, it's not the end of the world. It's a teenage kid that made the mistake, but that's more time I gotta take out of my already now completely sideways day to go get this exchanged. You know, it's just, they're little things. So it just basically was not a great day. Meanwhile, I have been fighting this head cold. So it was like by the end of the day, I like hit the couch and just crashed. Like I spiked a fever, and it was like, this was too big of a day. But today is already looking much better. So I'm gonna stop moping about it, and we're just gonna get on with our day. Hey cows, look at all of you clustered around the water bowl. Kind of feels like the office all gathering at the water cooler. So Belle has gotten to be all fluffy and poofy. I mean, they all are. They're all getting poofy. But what blows me away is, so this is Minnie, and that's Rita. Rita used to be brown and white. She's not brown anymore. She's as black as Minnie. So now they're even harder to tell apart. But no, the big way to tell them apart when they're facing you is that Rita has that little tiny white speck on her forehead. That's how you know it's Rita. Hi, sweetie. Are you sniffing the dog? Oh, Gideon, are you making friends? Of course, also when you get into the pen, Minnie likes to give kisses. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're a sweet girl. Now, as for an update in the breeding pen here with Mr. Rocket hanging out with the ladies, nobody has yet been bred, but we are so stinking close. There are 2 of them. It's kind of a race to see who's going to go into heat first. Clover has significantly dropped off how much grain she eats when she's on the stand, and that seems to fluctuate with her cycle. There's nothing wrong with her. It's just that her desire to eat grain goes down the closer she gets to her heat. And then Maggie is getting closer and closer as well because her milk production has dropped significantly. She still eats like a horse, but her milk production dips as her heat cycle is coming in. And she's been allowing Rocket to spend more and more time near her. She's just not in heat yet. So, just a waiting game. Overall, it's been pretty calm in here. Rocket seems to be a gentleman. He was a little excited when he first came in here, but he's been generally a very polite gentleman to the ladies as they've been in here. He occasionally comes over and rubs on them, and they seem to accept his presence. So I think that breeding should be pretty successful here once they start coming into heat.